We're now live. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. This is Altamash Ahmed, currently the content editor at National Perspectives, and starting our session for the startup series, Why Startups Fail, for the first episode. And we are joined by our subject matter expert, Mr. Nabeel Shaikh, who is with us. Nabeel Shaikh has over about 15 years experience working for different fintech startups. He's also entrepreneur, startup advisor, career counselor, and career counselor and startup advisor. And today he'll be giving us useful insights on how why so many startups fail. We have seen examples of currently in Pakistan, like startups like Wawa Cars, Airlift, which all they started very well, but unfortunately they have failed. So Nabeel Sheikh would be giving his useful information insights on it. So Mr. Nabeel, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Hi, Islam, Alhamdulillah, and thanks for having me for today's session. And thanks for the introduction, Altamash. And so our objective is what are the reasons, the main reasons, what should be prevented if you are going or you are planning to have your own startup or own business. So this is the today's objective or agenda, and now we will take on this session. By the way, currently I'm associated with a unicorn, Saudi-based unicorn, which is also associated with the technology sector, and I'm actually working and advising them from finance perspective. So yes, Altamash, so you can carry on your session.
So that's very nice to hear. Well, I forgot to mention that Nabeel is also a YouTuber now. He has around 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, and he gives very interesting videos. So do subscribe to his channel as well, Nash Perspective. So let's start with the session, Nabeel. First of all, just a basic question. What actually is a startup? I mean, we've seen people who have a French fry stall, and then we have the example of Facebook and Amazon. So can you please differentiate between these two, and also follow up on that? That what is the difference between self-employment and a startup?
Okay, so okay, starting with the Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. There is a book by Robert Kiyosaki, and it's built on the Rich Dads and Poor Dad, and it's explaining the difference between the employment, and then next level is self-employment, and the next level is business, and the last level is investor. So if you want to move from middle class or lower middle class to the upper class, then this is the quadrant you have to follow. So keeping that in mind, so we will focus. Employment is quite clear for every one of us that if you're employed by any person or any business, then you're an employed person. Self-employed, if you are a freelancer, you are managing your Amazon account, or you're managing or offering your Upwork or freelancing services, or even you're a sole proprietor, like you are a single chartered accountant managing your own firm without having any partners. So in that scenario, it is kind of self-employment, because you are the only signing authority within that firm, and God forbid anything happen to you, and for any strange reason you will not be able to continue to practice, then your business will stop running. So that's not meeting the definition of business or startup. That's actually a self-employment. So the next level is from self-employment to business, that you are creating an enterprise. Okay, so when you're talking about the Amazon account handling, or maybe grocery store, or maybe in Pakistan we can call it pan ka kuka and all that. So this is actually, these are the examples of self-employment, because you like the whole business model is based on your skill. If you're not working, then stop working. So this is the reason that when we talk about the startup, so it means that it has the potential to grow as an enterprise. If you're starting anything with the team, like you are the founder and you have a couple of co-founders along with you alongside, and then these people, that this team is building an enterprise which will going to employ further people down the road. So it doesn't mean that if any founder or co-founder stop contributing or somehow retires, or God forbid anything happened to him and he not and unable to continue the business, it doesn't mean that business will stop. The business will keep continuing like that. And this is the reason that when we talk about startup, it should have always the potential to grow as an enterprise or corporate. So that's the main reason. So when to talk about freelancing or Amazon, the Amazon accounts or Shopify and all that, these are actually the examples of self-employment. And if you talk about Kareem, Uber, these are the examples of startups, which are now unicorn itself. So they used to be startups at some point in time.
That's very nicely explained, Mr. Nabil. So following up on that, like, what would be the key factors which you need to form a startup? What would be the main factors for it?
Okay, let me share my screen first because I need to present something. Uh, is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Is visible. So this is the cash flow quadrant I just explained while responding your question number one. So these are the quadrant that you are moving from employment to self-employment, and then self-employment to business owner. And the ultimate objective is investor, when your investment or your capital will start working for you. Instead, you contribute your time in it. So this is how the cash flow quadrant works as per Robert Kiyosaki. And now I'm going to explain you the BCM model. That's the answer to your question number two. So that's the business canvas model. So we have to identify these are the key ingredients to form a successful startup. So you have to identify all the key partners of the business. You have to identify all the core activities or ancillary activities of the business, and then you have to identify your key resources. What are the key resources who are going to contribute in the business? Your maybe COO, your CTO, these kind of people should be identified first place. And then you have to identify your value propositions. We used to call it USP, unique selling point, but it's from product perspective, a marketing term. But when you talk about value propositions, it means what value you are going to address. Okay, so you have to identify that you are coming up with this mindset, that you have the key partners in hand, you have the key activities identified, your operating model is up and running, you have the key resources who are going to contribute. It could be 3 or 4 people, or maybe yourself or one of your partner. And then you have to identify what value proposition, what pain point you are going to address after introduction of this startup, what pain point your startup is going to address, and fix the process. It's not about like you are trying to build any fancy product which is not going to meet any objective, or not going to serve the society, or it has to create the demand first. Okay, so you don't need to run after creating the demand. You have to identify the pain point. That's an easy route, and build a solution for it, and then pitch your startup or bring a solution around it. So that should be the concept. And we are moving for further is with client relationship and the channel is the, if you are making your supply chain, or maybe your online distributor or e-commerce handler, then you have to develop your channels, and what channels you will be reaching out to your customer segments, identified customer segments, we call it market niche. And then you have to identify the client relationship, how you will keep engaged with your client throughout the period. So after identifying all these items, then you have to work around your cost structure, your key cost components, and then you have to identify your revenue streams. Okay, and definitely we are going to cover this part, the revenue stream part, how to build those revenue models, so to be a successful startup. So this is the live example of Airbnb, where I'm identifying the key partners of Airbnb, key activities of Airbnb, key resources of Airbnb, which is platform and millions of listings there. And then you have to identify the value proposition. So easy to book, unique accommodation across the world. That's a unique proposition they are offering. Easy to let unit for a short period. It means they are not only targeting the people who are looking like guests, who are looking for some premises for the temporary period. They are also accommodating those people who want to offer such accommodations. So this is the value proposition they are offering to their guest as well as the host. And the client relationship, definitely they build their self-service platform, and the channels referrals, host advertising, and SEM. These are they are this is the reason they are these are the channels to reach out to their client segment or customer segment. And then definitely their cost structure and revenue stream is well defined. So this is on paper, you have to look at it. If you are going to develop your own startup, then you have to look at all these components, that is, are these components there or not. If any of the key component is missing, then definitely your startup is going to fall down.
Okay, so that's very well explained and very detailed analysis, Mr. Nabil. A reminder to our viewers that who are watching this, that you guys can comment on it and you can ask your queries to us. We'll be answering your questions as well on all of these, especially on the slides that Nabil has presented, because it might be difficult for some of you to what we have just seen. So you can ask your queries on it as well. So moving on, Mr. Nabil, like you mentioned about the market penetration about it. So how exactly do we penetrate the market as a new startup, and how much research we have to do as for our main competition?
Okay, like people, like I was engaged with NIC Pakistan, and I was reviewing certain startup ideas, and I thought that people are not actually focusing on the pain points available in the society, which is very easy. Just step outside your house or office, and you will start looking at the problem what people are facing, even you are facing in your personal life. So instead people start addressing those pain points. They are focusing to develop the fancy ideas, which doesn't need any, doesn't need any any solution. Okay, like recently, by the way, I recently yesterday I was reading the news that Bernard Arnold of Louis Vuitton, he recently surpassed Elon Musk as the
Yes,
top richest person of the world. So, but we don't need Louis Vuitton at all. If Louis
yeah,
Vuitton finish today, we don't care. Like we will survive. We will like life will moving on
life will
the
go
way.
on.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's not going to impact us, right? So in this situation, we have to work around that. We have to address the pain point. Like golden example is Uber or Kareem. They are addressing the pain point. We just discussed Airbnb. They are addressing the pain point. Like somebody has a vacant property, underutilized or unutilized, and somebody wants to have a cheaper accommodation for the temporary purposes. So it's, meeting those people are meeting on this platform is addressing the pain point. So we have to focus on the pain point, what we are facing at the moment and what society is facing. So go and address those pain points rather creating some fancy idea which doesn't need any market segment at all. Or you have to struggle a lot, or maybe you have to, invest a lot in the marketing strategy to build that platform.
that's very well explained, Nabil. Especially like the part where you mentioned Louis Vuitton. Obviously, for us Pakistanis, we are facing economic crisis right now. Obviously, we don't need fancy products like Louis Vuitton. We need something which the market requires. So moving on that,
Correct.
let's ask another question. How do we research the market for the product which would be launching?
Okay, it's another interesting stuff. When I was reaching out to young entrepreneurs or startup aspirants, I observed that rather researching to niche or the target market they selected for the product, they just build the idea in their mind, and they assume certain key aspects of the market, or how the customer or intended customer will behave, which is not the right approach. So the right approach should be that you build a, in-depth questionnaire and motivate your target market to fill that questionnaire and at least gather 500 sample size. So when once this input is gathered, from your target audience or your niche market, then based on the results you have three options. Okay, first, whether you want to continue the idea or not, first thing. Okay, next thing is whether we should drop the idea here, and it was a ridiculous idea, and market this research results rejected the idea right away. It's not going to fly. Okay, third thing is you need to make a some certain tweaks in the product, and after making product, this will be a workable option. You getting me? So first your initial idea which you just thought in your mind, and then the feedback you receive from the people, and you have to edit or amend the idea and revamp the idea and again make it workable or marketable option. So this is how it works. So this is the idea, that you should start with the research approach, the questionnaire, and once the question is there, and decide your market niche and go for market questionnaire. Now the people did, how I'm going to gather 500 input from the questionnaire? Very interesting question. So for that reason, you can bring the interns from the university students are really good. They are doing this for their university assignments, so they could be very cheaper and affordable source for you to gather your target input from the or college students. Or next thing is, if you have to make a startup from different age brackets, then you have to reach out their families. So this is the quickest idea. Otherwise, if you can afford, then you can go to the marketing expert and they will gather the ideas for yourself. That the questionnaire, the input from the
That's
question, they get paid for that and they gather the required
that's
input. But the thing is, that's a minimum data requirement. They usually don't provide the data for 500 sample size. They usually ask for around 5,000, 10,000 something. That's a minimum, because not viable for them to carry on professionally or commercially to accept such kind of assignments, marketing research assignments.
That's an interesting idea that Mr. Nabil you have shared, that we can always take on university students because they are always looking for their internship certificates because it's a requirement for them to graduate. So that's very
It's a
interesting.
win-win. It's a
So moving
win-win.
on,
True.
yeah, it's a win-win exactly. So we'll move on. Like you mentioned the revenue model when you were presenting your slides. So like, how do we design the revenue model for our startup?
Okay, for revenue model, you have to understand that what revenue models are currently prevailing across the globe. So you have, okay, like, because I am actually representing the technology industry, and I'm representing here the finance, the segment. So keeping that in mind, if you are talking about a subscription based model, so that is Netflix. We have the example of Netflix. You can go for the subscription based model. Okay. And other than, you can go for the ad based model, which is Google. Okay, you go to YouTube, you go to, or maybe Facebook, you go there and just place the ad and they make money out of it. Okay, then you are having a transaction based model. If you are using the platform at transaction level, like Amazon or maybe this Uber, so then you're using, you're traveling, then on each ride, they are keeping their cut. Okay, from the driver or the captain. So this is what they are making. And same way Amazon, that if they are selling 100 products, they are keeping certain commission out of that product. So this is these are the example. Like, first I explained subscription based model, example is Netflix, and the next example was the Google, which is ad based model. And the third one is that you are going for this transaction based model, which Amazon and this Uber or Kareem are using at the moment. And quite interesting for the startup, that's now the fourth one is actually more specific to startup, is freemium. We call it freemium. Okay, the example is Grammarly. Maybe you have used that Grammarly or
Yes, yes.
Calendly for your
Grammarly,
Indian one.
it's the like
Yeah.
it's the lifeline for me.
Yeah, so most of the people are utilizing this feature, and it's quite helpful as well. So they are offering free of cost. Okay, if you want, you have to have a basic feature. They are offering free of cost. It could be integrated with your maybe Chrome or maybe your Word. But if you want to properly utilize it, you are a professional content writer like yourself, and you want to properly utilize it, you should go for the paid version. Okay, so it will start adding value for you. Okay, so the person like me who is just drafting few emails, maybe 100 emails per day, and it's quite helpful for me to use for the free version. But the person who is on daily basis generating the content like yourself, he definitely needs Grammarly. Or the person who is struggling in writing, who's amateur, who's not familiar with the professional writing and all that, definitely he needs Grammarly as a solution. So definitely he's going to subscribe for that. So this is how the freemium model works. Like, initially offer your product for free, and make the user habitual of your product, the convenience what your product is offering, and then you say, okay, fine, if you want add-on features, please pay for this amount. and then it goes to the subscription based model. So these are the examples. So if you're talking about, it's by the way, revenue stream, defining the revenue stream in your nature of startup is vital, factor, or is essential to define your revenue stream. If your revenue stream is not well defined or not viable, then is definitely going to fail. So this is the must thing to have, that your revenue stream is properly defined and tested when you're going to do the proof of concept.
That's very well explained. So you mentioned about the how the selling of the product. So following up on that, like we have made a product and we think it's the best, but the
Hmm.
main problem comes with how do we market it. So like the question is, how do we sell our product or the service we are providing?
Okay, so as I referred that we need to do for the product research or market research, as I already explained, that to assess the market feedback, how your target market or your niche, your identified niche is going to respond to your product. Okay, that's the first thing. And the next thing is that if you have done that exercise, then you have to build a pocket friendly prototype for proof of concept of your product. If proof of concept is done, what's the proof of concept? You have to understand. Okay, so you have to test your product in your friends and family circle, or maybe in your university, or maybe at your office or your workplace where hundred of people are working, or maybe in your locality. Okay, so you just go there, reach out to them in your locality, maybe 100 houses are there. That's the proof of concept. You have to, how you to approach the proof of concept and test your product in that particular area. If you got a positive feedback, like people found it really interesting product, okay, and they say that yes, go for it, it's going to fly, okay, and we can see that it's a multi-million dollar startup or maybe a unicorn. So in that scenario, that you have the comfort from the proof of concept side, you have trial and tested your product, okay, so and the proof of concept is done and dusted, and now you are fully ready to make it operational. Okay, so this is how that you are going to prepare for a proof of concept. So proof of concept is a really important factor which is backed by the research you did at initial phase, which I already responded to, I think your question 2 or question 3.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
and the
explained well.
most important thing from selling perspective, as I always recommend, if you are a startup and you want to launch your product, go for freemium model. Okay, initially offer your product, a sample of your product, free of cost to certain people, and assess their feedback, improve your product, okay, make it workable, and then relaunch and scale it up.
Okay, that's explained very well. So like we've made our product and now like how do we make the strategy, how do we make the proper strategy for the startup, like how do we do that?
Okay, there are multiple options. But from my experience, because I have been in this entrepreneurship since 2017, I initially definitely I failed because I came from I'm chartered accountant by myself, so I came from consulting background, and I have to test myself, and I understand the business gamics as well. I learned over the period of time, and I did mistake myself and improve throughout. So, what I understand, to save the time, because if you are a group of young graduates or maybe 3 or 4 years of experience like that, you need to add a gray hair impact, in your startup. For that reason, you have to have a mentor or a group of mentor with different expertise on your board. Okay, they could, or the thing is how you will afford them. That's the basic question. You cannot going to pay their board remuneration, or you cannot pay their remuneration at all. You cannot afford them, simple as that, because you're the startup and it's not a viable option for you. So the solution is offer them a certain component of your equity to onboard that mentor, which is going to advise you on your startup, okay, which is going to refine your idea, okay, who is going to refine your strategy. You are not the strategist, okay, maybe you are coming from a technology background, you are coming from sales background, you are coming from finance background, you're not the strategy expert, okay. So that mentor will help you in refining and building your strategy. So this is how it should work, that you should onboard the mentor. Okay, how to onboard the mentor? As I suggested, offer them the role on the board, offer certain equity component to them, and they will refine the idea. Maybe they will reject the idea, saying it's not going to fly. I have experienced this thing, because you have to, leverage on their experience. They have a 15, 20 years of experience, and you have to leverage on that. Okay, and they will come sit with you, and by they will give just couple of hours maybe per month, or maybe 8 to 10 hours maximum per month, but they that value for you. Okay, because that's going to build your product. Okay, so that could be that mentor could be accelerator, that mentor could be incubator. Okay, so incubator is the person who actually form your startup from scratch. Okay, and then we have to go for the accelerator, who accelerate, like you have developed, incubated your startup successfully. Now he has to accelerate. He has the connections. He will connect you with the regulator. He will connect you with the strategic partners. So he has strong connections, and he may connect with you the potential investor, meeting your funding requirement. And the third option is startup studios like Nash Perspective. So in Nash Perspective, we are offering, like our team is working on to make a platform for all those ideas who are looking for such partnership, such mentorship. Okay, so Nash Perspective is offering this platform, so startup may come, bring your ideas, work with us, or we will bring a technical staff for you. We will bridge the communication gap between yourself and the regulator. We will form or structure your company, whether it needs US based company, it needs a UK based company. We will form that. We will suggest you the structure. We will develop the strategy for you. So this is what in Nash Perspective we are offering, and we call it startup studios. And it's a quite viable and quite economical option for the startup who cannot afford a full-time offices, and who cannot afford full-time legal counsel. They cannot afford the heavy payroll. So this is the reason startup is getting is a one window solution for all those, like for accelerator or for incubator or mentor or investor. All are in same place. We call it startup studio, like Nash Perspective.
Right, that's explained well. So you mentioned mentorship. So mentorship obviously is very important as well for all people, especially for the people who are studying in the universities. Because I personally have seen people who are like disillusioned. They don't have any idea what to do with their lives. So obviously mentorship is very important. Very well point. So let's move on. Let's move on with the next question. Like, let's say, Mr. Nabil, we have made our product, we have sold our service, and we are very confident that it will work very well in the market. But unfortunately, for some reason or not, we didn't. So, like, it's the optimism of the entrepreneur. So, how do we overcome this optimism of the entrepreneur?
That's a very relevant question. So that's the thing, that every entrepreneur or every the person who is going to have his business, he's like on in Pakistan we have the tea stalls and all that, we call it dhabas. So people, like four friends, are sitting together, and they're very optimistic about their ideas, going crazy. And then they at the end of the day, they are not going to do it, or if they are going to do it, they are going to fail. There's a 99% failure chances are there. Reason being, because of this optimism, because you are quite confident about your idea, but you did not reach out to people. So as I suggested, go for the prepare a questionnaire, reach out to your target market and assess their input, what they are going to say about your product. Okay, whether you think that it's a solution for any pain point, whether it's actually a pain point or not, or you think it's a pain point. Okay, let's say if you keep pets, right? So I don't think so, like more than 2-3% people around the world keep the pet. So 90, but more than 90% is a very specific niche. So more than 90% people don't consider it as a pain. Getting me? So you have to understand, you have to identify the
Yes.
right niche to reach out only 2-3% people who actually keeping the pet. You don't need to select the sample from all 100% population. So you have to target the niche, you have to reach out to them, offer them the questionnaire, give some perk, as I told you, reach out to the university student and get it filled through them. And after getting the input from all these party, like 500 plus inputs gathered, then is a sufficient basis. Even if you are going for any masters or PhD program, even they're asking you to submit the minimum sample size is required is 500, because that's the reason you can rely on it. Okay, whether you can extrapolate that sample to the population or not, you getting me? So it's a reliable sample. You cannot go for 100 or 200, it's not going to represent the population of millions. So in this situation, you have to go for the research, properly research, reach out to people, spend some money, okay, make it incentivize it, and then and then do the proof of concept. When once you gather all the input, then go for the proof of concept, whether the product is having the potential to grow or not. Go for the proof of concept in certain locality, in at your workplace, in your neighborhood, okay, or maybe in your friends and family. Do the proof of concept. And the last thing what I suggest you, then you have to have after that the mentorship impact as well. If you are making any mistake, that mentor is going to highlight or identify.
That's explained well, very well. So we'll move forward. We have created now a startup. Let's, for example, we have now the startup created, but now we have that the challenge comes that we have to recruit the talent, because as you know, currently in Pakistan, many startups are starting and then unfortunately they're going bankrupt or something else. So people are afraid to join new startups. People are afraid to join new companies, thinking that, oh, tomorrow it may go down and we'll be fired from our jobs, we'll be forced to let go. So how do we overcome this challenge? How do we recruit out the talent which we need for our startup?
Okay, so to reach out the talent, you have to build a complete, a complete remote working model, as we built in Nash Perspective. So we are, reaching out to the people who are sitting in maybe Nigeria, who are sitting in Bangladesh, or maybe in Europe. We are, looking for the right, talent, instead focusing on certain area, because that talent is not available. That's one of the option. Okay, but again, that needs some investment, as we did. So but startup usually cannot afford to build such kind of, remote based model, or 100% remote based model. So for this reason, what I suggest, you can reach out to the startup studios. Okay, discuss your idea, discuss your plan. They will evaluate your idea, they will incubate you, they will accelerate you. They have the recent connection, they will connect you with the financial funders as well, and they will hire a technical resources for you, because they already have up and running infrastructure in place. Okay, so you don't need to invest, or invite people. Okay, I am the startup, I am the ABC, I am the founder, and this is my partner, my co-founders. And and we are sitting at any small place. So for that reason, you have to reach out to the incubators. NIC is one of the example. You have to reach out to the startup studios. Okay, they will build whole your business model, and if your business model doesn't have the potential to grow, they will tell you right away. Okay, that is not going to is not going to work. Please discontinue or revamp your product. Okay, so in this situation, you have to reach out such kind of strategic partnership, that you are going to incubator, or you are going to startup studio like Nash Perspective, and then discuss your idea. They will help you out in recruiting and bringing a quality talent at affordable rates, and definitely you are going to retain. And for retainership, to retain the employee, I'll suggest to have employee stock option schemes. That's a very common ESOP, we call it ESOP, is employee stock options. So this is what we are going to offer. Is a globally prevailing practice as well. You just take out your 5 to 10% of your equity component, and offer to your key personnel.
Okay, that's explained very well. So you mentioned a few times in the on your slides that right now currently Pakistan is going through a tough economic challenge, but we have seen that obviously it's quite difficult to open a new business or a startup in Pakistan. So like, how do we make sure that we are following all the compliance rules, and what things should we avoid when we are making a business contract?
Okay. Okay. So for this reason, you have to reach out the consultant. Okay, the legal consultant or legal counsel, to or to the consultant who is offering, and like let's say I pick UAE, so I have to reach out the advisor sitting in UAE, to reach out to them, and they will tell me that what are the regulations required in that particular market to operate. Maybe I need some licenses from any authority, or maybe I need to protect my IP. Intellectual property protection is quite important subject in this space. So if you are going to reach out to the consultant, they are going to advise you. That's the first thing. But startup, the next question, this is a compound question, that if you are a startup and you cannot afford to have, you cannot afford to have advisor, you're not able to pay the fee, is sitting in UAE or maybe USA, and you cannot afford to pay their fee. So for that reason, I suggest you to go for the mentor. Okay, it's not necessary mentor on a strategic side. So I advised earlier that we should go for strategy building with mentor. This mentor, this nature of mentor, is going to guide you on legal steps. Maybe he's going to guide you to about the regulatory requirement, that who will help you out in building the model in any particular target market. Okay, let's say in Pakistan, if you're going to that, the person, maybe the chartered accountant, the right people who are going to advise you on your your SCCP requirements, on your FBR requirement, your SBP requirements, is a one solution. They are going to reach out and connect you with everyone at one place. They are going to advise and give you the right solution for that. Same goes to UAE, or same goes to USA or UK, that you have to reach out to the right person who's going to advise. But if you cannot afford them, then bring them as a mentor in your board and offer them certain equity portion, and it's going to work, because a lot of mentors are working this way. Like myself is associated with a couple of startups this way.
Okay, that's explained well. You mentioned on my previous question that you need to have a solid investment for it. But if we go for with a business idea to any bank in Pakistan, they straight away reject our business idea, saying it's not working. So, like, how do we like raise the capital for our startup?
Okay, so you have to have a proper pitch deck, okay, or pitch book. Okay, so in this pitch book, you have to have few ingredients in place. Okay, and those are key ingredients. Like I will give you a list of 10 items, and those 10 items should be there in your pitch deck or a pitch book when you are reaching out to your investors. But before that, I will explain you what nature of investors are available in the market. Okay, financing options. Okay, if you're having a startup, first option is bootstrapping, like put your money or your father's money on stake. Okay, that's the easiest option. Okay, but if you are not going to convince your friends and family, or maybe they are, they are unable to finance your startup, in that situation, you have to reach out to the incubator or accelerator. Maybe they are going to finance you, or they are going to arrange the financer for you. Then you have to reach out to the angel investors. They are an angel investor in the market. They are the high net worth individuals. They can afford your, from your point of view, it's a high ticket size. From their point of view, it's not a high ticket size. They can afford you 500K or 1 million injection in your business, but that's a quite cumbersome process or for you. Or so this is the reason that you have to reach out to the angel investors. Next option is VCs, venture capital. But with VCs, you have to deal properly and professionally. Okay, as I mentioned, you have to go with a proper pitch deck backed by the financial feasibility. If you prepare a pitch deck but it's not backed by a proper financial feasibility, you're going to fail. Okay, and definitely we are going to discuss that what are do's and don'ts when you're reaching out to the VCs. Okay, so these are the options. Even few governments are offering to promote the startups, in Pakistan, in KSA, in UAE. They are offering certain loans, SMEs loans around 5 million or something. They are offering to the startups to promote the culture of startup or entrepreneurship. Okay, so you can reach out to them. Okay, or you may work around the grants. There are certain grants in Pakistan or outside Pakistan, or maybe in KSA. So you have to reach out. Maybe World Bank is offering that grant, or maybe there are international bodies who are offering these grants. If you are meeting certain objectives, you can work around the grants as well, government grants. So these are the options available. Now I have to share my screen to walk you through with the investment options available. Yeah, so these are the 10 elements of pitch deck. Okay, you have to define your problem, what problem you are going to address, then the solution which your startup is going to address, then the key product features, what features should you have, okay, and the market fit, whether it's going to fit the target market or not. Competitive landscape, are there already the players there in that competitive landscape is strong or weak, or there is no competition at all? Maybe your USP or unique selling point is quite enough to outbeat all the competitors. And then the revenue and operating model, as I already explained you in your earlier question, that your revenue model should be clear and defined, and your operating model should be clear and defined and well documented. And the traction, whether you're going to track that or not, and the projections, how you see your projections, which should be backed by your financial feasibility. Team is a quite key component. Your team should not be part-timers, group of part-timers. Your team should not be freelancers. Your team should not be weak, and it should be a good combination of people having different skill set, so they should look like a team. It's not like one skill set for all. Okay, like five sales guys working on a startup, and they are having all same skill set, no IT background, no finance background, no other background, so it's not going to make a team, right? No reputation in the team. And the funding requirement. So funding requirement, if you're going to pitch to the VC, definitely you're require make it clear to them that this is my requirement, I need 5 million, or maybe I need 10 million, whatever the requirement is as per your startup. Then you have to raise that requirement to them. So these are the top 10 elements you have to include in your pitch deck when you are reaching out to your angel investors, when you are reaching out to your VCs or any other target investor.
As explained very well, Nabil. So you mentioned venture capitalism. So, like, what's you mentioned the steps we should take. Now, can you please describe what steps should we avoid when we are going to a venture capital?
Sure, Altamash. The thing is that don't reach out to venture capital without having a strong proof of concept in hand. I already explained what is proof of concept and how to do it.
Yes.
Okay. So you should have the proof of concept in hand when you're reaching out to the venture capital. Your team should be strong enough, and should be all or most of them are on permanent basis. They don't like to have, because they're investors, they see who will run the business. You are all the part-timers, who will run the business, who did the proof of concept, if you all of you are the bunch of freelancers. So they should be full-timers, or most of them are should be full-timers having diversified skill set. So they should look like a strong team. Okay, so that's the second point. And the third point is that you should have a strong revenue model in place. I already explained what is revenue model, what are the options available in the revenue model, and we consult the people as well on the revenue model, how to tweak your revenue model to make it sellable for the venture capital or the investors, or how to be a profitable business down the road. So this is these are the options. Like as I told you, proof of concept should be in place, your team should look strong, your pitch deck should be backed by a strong financial feasibility, because they are more into finance. They will do the due diligence or of your numbers. So your financial feasibility should support your valuation. Okay, so these areas or components should be well explained and should be well prepared. And your team, above all, your team should look strong, that they have the capability to deliver what you are putting in your pitch deck. It's not like you're putting something in your pitch deck and you're not capable enough to deliver. So they are looking, the venture capital are looking that, okay, they are capable people to deliver. This is the idea, having a good pitch deck. Yes, it is addressing the pain point, and this is the right solution for it. These are the right people to deliver for it. And definitely, because they have that, by the way, one important thing, venture capital are also looking for the gray hair impact. As I told you, mentor, who is doing the mentorship for yourself. If you develop yourself, maybe it's a very amazing idea, and you're pitching that idea, but it's not properly backed by proof of concept, financial feasibility, and not reviewed by any mentor, any subject matter expert. So it means that you're not able to convince the venture capital. Yes, it is reviewed by a certain subject matter expert, and he confirmed that it is workable option, and that's the right solution. So these all components should be considered while reaching out to the potential investor, whether it's VC or angel.
So another detailed and answer by Mrs. Nabil. Moving forward, like obviously we need a business contract when we are starting a startup. So what should be what should things should we avoid while making a business contract?
Yeah, so for all the key arrangements you are signing with your strategic partners or your potential customers or your potential investors should be reviewed by legal professionals. Is you cannot compromise on that. That's another mistake what startups are doing. They are not reaching out to professional to save money. So this is not the area where you can compromise on budget. You have to reach out a quality lawyer to get it reviewed, because it is going to bite you in long run. So you have to be very vigilant when you are signing any agreement, especially if your counterpart is coming with a professional background. Like VCs, they have a complete legal counsel in place, so you cannot you cannot negotiate or or go in such dialogue with them on the clauses of the agreement. So, and I think you should hire when you are reaching out to that point, you should go for the legal advisor. Or again, you can bring, if you cannot afford a legal advisor, you can bring a mentor with legal background who will consult on this.
Got it. Noted, Nabil. We'll go with the last question of the session. After that, we'll be taking the audience sessions after this. So, Nabil, we have an example of like Airlift, and we have an example of your startup as well, seen on it. Like when Airlift started, it was actually a ride hailing service, but COVID came and suddenly everything was shut down, and this Airlift was gone. But suddenly Airlift came up with a new idea with the e-commerce. They gave away groceries and all the stuff on it. So unfortunately, it failed as well. But how necessary it is that you should always have a backup plan for it, for your startup?
When you going full into entrepreneurship, then there should not be any plan B. That's the first thing, because it's same like Tariq bin Ziyad. If you are going to conquer Spain, then you have to burn all your boats. Okay, just keep that in mind. Very clear on it. If you're entering into entrepreneurship, then there is no way back. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, now, the mistake, what I learned in my startup scene on it.com, we built a platform for the audience. I'm explaining the startup which I did in 2017, not in 2017, actually, I started in 2016. So, we built a platform to do a complete end to end, arrangement of your wedding or any event. And like you go to the platform and you just put their budget, your wedding budget or your event budget with your requirements, like I need 500 people space with this 1 million and all that, and I need such kind of arrangement in this particular locality, all that. So that platform is going to reach out to the investors, making the call, doing the arrangement within your budget, making a comprehensive budget. And while sitting home, you just book all your arrangements, from your rental car, from your wedding dresses, with your tailors and your wedding halls and all such arrangements, single click. Okay, but what I learned, that I did not research the behavior of the people in the market before building this product. Okay, because my mindset was Western culture. Okay, they need they are a tech savvy people, as well as they are more conscious about time. Okay, but we do the wedding for to spend time. We love to waste time on such arrangement. That behavior I couldn't understand. Okay, so when I reach to the people, I understand that people love wasting time in weddings. They love wasting time in it. They don't want convenience there. It's an activity for them. It's an entertainment activity for them. So when I learned this behavior, it's not going to fly in this country. I chose the wrong country for this. And by the way, I build everything on scene on air, so it can only be launched in Pakistan or India. So with this market, I think it's not going to fly. Because why? Because people are not, very few, like myself. Okay, like I'm time conscious person. Okay, so if I'm sensitive about it, And I'm not representing the population, but population as I understand, because if I entered in the research part, then I could have learned that this is not the right country to pitch scene on it. Okay, they don't care about this thing, they this activity for them, like whole family, gather and they start wasting their time as a collective effort. So it's not going to fly over Pakistan. So this is the reason, and I learned that research is a key component. If you're going to start, you have to do a proper desktop research, proper target market research before entering into any startup idea. Okay, and next thing is, as you mentioned about the airlift, you are keeping Pakistan market in mind, okay, which is actually a genuine issue. Airlift was
Hmm.
a genuine pain point. You cannot say no. There is no transportation, public transportation concept in the major, metropolitan of Karachi. There is no concept of public transport at all. It's definitely is an, but the model they built and the way they reach out to the angel investors and the VC was wrong. Okay, they make an exorbitant, model, some fancy thing, offering crazy salaries and payroll packages. It's not going to work. Though it looks
Hmm.
fancy, if you're a startup, you need to offer such kind of thing to attract talent, but you are not going to survive, because in the end you have to have a financially feasible product. So airlift model build was not financially feasible. Otherwise, it is addressing a pain point. There is no concept of public transport in Karachi at the moment. And the Karachi is, we are talking about 30 million population. There is no public transport. Still potential is there. High potential is there. But why it's failed? Because heavy cost.
So very well explained, Nabeel. So we'll be taking our audience questions from now. Reminder: you can comment on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We have a question here from Taha from LinkedIn. He's asking that how do I people with the same cause I believe in, and to fix the problem in society, and like gather them towards that. He wants to ask you this.
Yeah, it's not easy task. It's same like, finding your soulmate. It's not an easy task. So you have to reach out to people and explain the idea. This is what I wanted to do. Reach out to the, because in the countries like in eastern side, we don't have the concept of, counseling sessions or, like-minded group. It's not, part of the culture. But in western side, you will find such, you can create such group and people join the group and they start working this way, on community level. So this concept is not that much mature in Pakistan or the countries on, like, in Middle East. People don't want to, share the information what they carry. So, and they don't want to discuss the ideas. They rather, love discussing the people or events like football matches. So, and so this is the reason that is quite, it's a time consuming activity. And you need to have, like, meet thousand of people, maybe over LinkedIn or physically or maybe in any events, and you have to find out the right people. And again, the issue is the integrity. Maybe you find out the right person who speak your lingo, but integrity, you cannot comment on that, right? You have to spend some time with them, and then you have to determine or assess them whether they are the people with integrity or not.
Okay, that's explained. I hope Taha, this answers your question. We have another question from YouTube. Muhammad is asking that what do most of the startups struggle with?
Okay. Startups are struggling with, as I told you, they don't work on their revenue model properly. Okay. Their revenue model is not viable enough. Okay. So they are taking this financial feasibility quite easy. They just open Excel sheet and start working on it. They think that everybody can build that such models. Okay. So that's they take these things casually. Okay, they don't reach out to the mentors or subject matter expert. That's the reason that most startups struggle. And most importantly, if you raise the money or maybe your seed capital you arrange that, but you are not looking at your runway, your funding runway should be quite clear, that if you need to reach out certain point in 1.5 year, your funding should be raised to cover all that period. Okay, what people are doing, people are raising money for 1 year and then they start struggling from 13th or 14th month. And because of this working capital issue, most of the startups struggle, and they discontinue because of this thing, because they are not keeping in their vision the runway, what they have to cover, what period they have to cover to reach certain point.
I hope, Mohammed, this answers your questions. Another question we have from Wasif from LinkedIn. He's asking that what are the possible revenue models for the environmental, like for an environmental organization in Pakistan? Like he wants to start an NGO type. I think he's asking for it.
Environmental, I'm not sure what exactly, because it's quite open-ended question. Environmental organization, what exactly is looking for?
I think he's
Uh,
asking he's asking for like they want he wants to create awareness on the like environmental pollution which is currently happening in Pakistan and remind them about their carbon footprints.
Okay. In this particular aspect, keeping again the Pakistan market and also certain African countries and Asian countries which are impacted by recent floods and all that, keeping that context in mind. So, if you're talking about those to consult people or build any product which is going to address those situation, you can go for the grants. Okay, so there are organizations internationally who are quite active in this space and they are working on the grants. Next thing is you can go for the short term loan as well, or you can reach out to the government to have a public private partnership model. Okay, that's also quite a workable model, where government is going to fund your idea and you have to build that idea. Okay, and if you are talking about that, maybe some solar equipment or something like that, some alternate energy, like with Elon Musk is also offering from his solution, then it means that you're talking about the retail product. Okay, first I talk about which is going to impact the macroeconomy. Now I'm talking about the retail product which anybody can buy. I can buy. Okay, so for that reason is a different, entirely different landscape. Okay, so you have to understand again your target market. You have to research your product. Again, the same approach what we discussed today. Okay, so you have to determine that the buyer of your service is private sector or retailer, or maybe some corporate or government institution is the beneficiary of your product. You have to determine first to whom you are going to pitch your product. Okay, that's an important aspect. Then we will decide that what model can be suggested in this situation. So that's why I say it's quite open-ended question.
I hope Vasu, this answers your question. We'll take the final question where as we are running out of time now. Zaryab is asking on Facebook that given the current economic situation in Pakistan, how feasible it is right now to start a startup.
uh, it's a quite challenging question. In fact, what I suggest in this situation, because your government is not rich but your people are rich. Okay, and you can observe that when you're going outside to any restaurant or to any hotel or to any entertainment place, you will find crowded everywhere, crowded, and it's not about weekends, even in weekdays. So it means that your 100, not all people definitely, but decent size of your population is not financially as such struggling. Okay, but yes, a large number of people are struggling financially. That's because unemployment is increasing. So keeping that in mind, you have to decide that are you going to address the pain point. If yes, you are going to address the pain point, then you can launch your startup and focus the same way the roadmap which I told you in this session, that from where to start, where to end, how to pitch the startup. Okay, you can do that, but preferably what I suggest and what I'm working, so I'm engaged on those startups where they are operating though in Pakistan, the cost centers in Pakistan, but my target market is not Pakistan. Okay, so this give this hedge my position as well, that regardless of the economic situation of the country, my target market may be on western side or some other side, maybe Middle East. So in that situation, I don't care like about the macroeconomic situation, because I am focusing on my niche. Okay, so my revenue stream is quite stable. okay, because I'm focusing on a stable country and generating revenue from there, and my cost center is based in Pakistan, though the startup is up and so it is a mix and match, so to hedge my position against the macroeconomic situation in the country. So that's my honest opinion.
Okay, so I think that this concludes all the questions we have right now. A reminder that you can see on our slides the website name nashperspective.com. You can book a free consultation session with Mr. Nabeel, and he will guide you whether it's your career counseling or your startup advisory. So yeah, as you can see, nashperspective.com. Book your session right now today. So, Mr. Nabeel, thank you so much for your time right now. We
Thank you.
passed the hour mark. Uh, any final words on it?
Thank you, and it's a great initiative. And what I understand, we'll be conducting a weekly session for the larger audience on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So this is our objective is and to create awareness among the people, and to motivate people to come towards entrepreneurship and to contribute towards startup ecosystem. So this is what at the moment we have to work on it. This is the initiative from Nash perspective. So we are a startup studio where we are consulting different startups, as well as we are offering these kind of weekly sessions. So 1 hour we are spending together, coming together, sitting together, and discussing the issues what we are facing and how to be a successful startup or business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Nabeel. Thank you. So to the audience, just a reminder, we'll be coming back next week with another session on most probably on Friday. So keep like and subscribe our channel and keep follow us for more updates on the session on it. And for till then, Allah Hafiz.